Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of The Walking Dead World Beyond. A great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're pretty much picking up immediately after the event of the season 1 finale. Granted, we are bouncing around a little bit. Basically, we jumped to like 6 weeks ago, which is like before, what was it, like the day before Monument Day or something like that. And it's basically the CRM, basically when they're planning on wiping out the campus in Omaha. And obviously you have Elizabeth and that dude talking about everything, and even about the fact is of like, oh, like, should we let Jennifer know about like this plan? But it's like Elizabeth's like, no, it's okay, she needs to kind of focus on her own plans, so we'll kind of keep her in the dark about that. But like I said, we cut to like Felix and Iris present day, trying to figure out like, neither one of them being able to sleep. They're trying to figure things out. But then we kind of rewind all across the board to kind of give us a better understanding of everything that's going on. So Felix and Iris learn from Will what happened to him. That basically he started asking so many questions about like why couldn't they get in contact with anyone, what's going on. The CRM kept stonewalling him until he kept asking too many questions, and so basically they're like, "Yo, we're gonna take a 3-day trip to look into like what's up with the radio frequencies and like why we can't like get anything communication wise." But Will like checked out their supplies and he felt it's too light for a 3-day trip. So they caused a crash, and most of the CRM soldiers ended up dying, as him and that other dude ended up running. The other dude got and he managed to get away and eventually ran into this group. His interpretation is like, right, the empties, the columns, which I think is so interesting that that's their name for it. I don't think Fear the Walking Dead gave it a different name, but to be fair, that's mainly like Morgan probably like kind of gave it the name Horde. I don't know if I think they've used the word Horde. I know definitely that's like in the Walking Dead they refer to them as hordes, but I thought that was the moment they were saying columns, I'm like, what the hell? Like, oh, it's like, once again, it's like, oh, like empties versus walkers. It's, it's all the same thing. It's just like, oh, I can't believe you have your own thing. That was the specific name for them. But Will's kind of passing on what he knows, but it's still kind of the thing of like, wait, how can the empties just like run through like Omaha and the camp? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, I don't know, because he had said like they had salvaged some stuff, because that's all it was. It was supposed to be like a salvage trip of all that stuff, supplies, just covered in blood. And now it's like Iris and Felix like reeling with the fact is like everything and everyone they've ever known is gone. It's like in a blink of an eye, like they don't even have a home to go back to. Because that makes this whole thing even more difficult, because it's like, even if they rescue Hope and Leo, it's like, where are you going to go after this? Because you can't go back because it's gone. I mean, because that's also the thing, like, because that was the saddest thing too, because obviously we as the audience know the campus has been gone since the end of episode 1. They went across, like, it's been basically 6 weeks, and they didn't even know until now about what's going on. And it's like, that's devastating to kind of get that like all like, and also know like the only reason why you're alive is because you went out on this journey, which is interesting too, considering the fact is this journey, because Elizabeth gave them the map and everything, so she set that all in motion. So it's like, it's almost like a catch-22, because it's like, yeah, the CRM is responsible for everyone at the campus being dead, but Elizabeth's kind of also the reason why you're alive. It was mainly for a Hope, but she didn't expect, like, because it turns out, she talks about later on, this whole thing was mainly Huck's idea, to take Hope on this journey and everything, to like get her to the point that she will change enough to be ready to help them, which we'll get to Hope's side of things soon enough. But it is a bit of a catch-22 of just like, yeah, that's the only reason why they're alive, so that's gotta complicate your feelings at least a little bit. But they're staying at a community known as the Perimeter, and the leader of it is a woman named Indira, who's asking, like, this. They have an interesting situation with the CRM. The CRM will leave them alone as long as the Perimeter stays out of their business. It's like, you clear out the dead, blah, 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 blah. We have neutrality between us. So, but at the end of the day, like, Indira is kind of like, what are you all fighting for? Because, like, to live nowadays, you basically kind of have to, it takes a lot. You pretty much have to give everything. So what are you fighting for? And Felix is like Will, Iris, and a few others, obviously. And it's like, for, you know, it's like, well, what are you living for? And Iris says hope. Now that could be taken, I think it's meant to be both ways, and hope that, yeah, like for one, hope that her and her family can be reunited. Hopefully that there can be some salvaging of this world. So it is just a hope in like a better tomorrow, but also hope, you know, and living for hope her sister. So like I think it's meant to be that double representation in that regard. But decoding their books, Iris discovers like more like supply deposits and stuff like that, but they're heavily armed and there's nothing that they can do, because for Will, it's like if we make the wrong moves, we're not just going to complicate things for ourselves, we're going to complicate things for the perimeter, Hope, and your dad. It's like because if we do, we screw the pooch on this, like CRM's just going to say screw it, kill us all. Like, you know, everyone will be flattened because the CRM has got too many supplies. It's too much. They're too armed to the teeth. So Iris does talk to Will later on about it. She's like, why do you think the CRM covered up? He's like, I don't know. But at the end of the day, because she talks about the fact is the only reason why we're alive right now is because we took a risk. And the fact is we have to be willing to take another risk. We have to risk everything if we want to save Hope and Dad. And, you know, even Felix is like, yeah, the CRM changed the game and it's time we change how we play too. And so Iris goes out on her own and she attacks a CRM soldier because she kept having this dream over and over again, but I guess it's like we kept seeing her pulling a walker's face off, and we didn't really get the context of it until later on when she pulls it off and then there's a CRM soldier like underneath. It's like, okay, because that was her subconscious telling her like she had worked something out, because she kept being like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Why would a CRM cover up? Doesn't matter. Like if it was really like empties like rolling through, like wouldn't they just say something? Like why would they cover it up? And you know, because at first you're kind of like, well, we as the audience already know, but it's like why would they perpetuate that? Like, but to the characters that aren't in the know, it's like, but why would they create such a lie? Like why would they cover it up if it was just the empties and stuff that did that? So. But Iris's brain was like something in her mind was like, it's not right. Something's not right here. And her subconscious figured it out. And she's like, right, it wasn't the empties that did it. It was you. You attacked the campus and you were covering this. You're trying to cover your tracks by making it seem like it was like, oh, because, you know, even later on when Elizabeth is explaining it at Hope, it's like, right, what happened to your home and everything. I'm so sorry. A few of the survivors, we blah, 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 like spewing bullshit out their asses. Obviously, it's all like new to Huck because Huck had no idea, for one, about the campus situation. Because I guess that's what makes a lie that much more powerful is when you can get someone else. Because like, if Hope can look at Huck and be like, see how shocked Huck is, you know, because I guess Huck, because I was about to say, Huck has quite the poker face if she was able to lie, manipulate all of them, but it's like, under these circumstances, like her like, she needs to be sincere, because I think, at the end of the day, Elizabeth wants Hope to kind of have at least some semblance of a connection with Huck, with Jennifer, because that way, it's like, at least she can be her entry point into, like, everything the CRM is up to. But even then, it was also just because, like, it's so interesting because, like, I'm a little all over the place, but she's testing not only Hope, but also Jennifer, because basically it's like, right, I could take you to your dad, but I'm not going to, because, yes, we want you to be a part of the future we're building. Like, we do and could use your help. Your dad could use your help in what he's doing for us. But how can I trust that you won't come into our home and corrupt it? Because, yes, you have every right to be angry at us. Straight up hate us, understandable. But that's also, like, why I'm a little reluctant. Because, like, are you all the way in on this? Like, you know, do you believe in a future? And she's kind of like, I do. But it's like the hesitancy that, like, Elizabeth's hearing from her is just making her like, I need to be 100% sure you're committed to this before like, you try to come up, be a part of this and basically corrupt it from the inside out. But it wasn't just it wasn't just a test for Hope, because she's like, yeah, you can go off and, you know, no one survives alone. I mean, the only reason why you made it this far because you weren't. Because if you try to make it alone, you'd end up dead, like, but you had other people with you. And so the same thing kind of applies to this. It's all about, it's almost like nothing, because the CRM is about the CRM as a whole, not the individual. We're all cogs in this giant machine, as even Huck says later on. They're small pieces tiny pieces in this giant mosaic. So, but like I said, it's not just Hope getting tested. It was Huck too, because Elizabeth's trying to see if Jennifer's been changed. It's like, right, you're saying this trip was going to change Hope. You know, once you're undercover for so long, you get attached to certain things. So it's like, hopefully you haven't gotten too attached to this group. And so it wasn't just testing to see if Hope would come to her senses and ask for help for them and realize she can't make it on her own. But it was also to make sure Jennifer didn't go rushing after her, because she's like, I'm glad I was wrong. It's not that Huck didn't want to, but it's just because Huck wanted to believe in, like, right, she wants to and does believe in what they're doing. That all that they do is for the greater good at the end of the day. So regardless of it, she wanted to kind of give her mom, like, all right, whatever you got planned, Mom, because it is kind of a thing of like, right, you talked about like how important she was, but now you're acting like she's not, because you're like, it's almost like you're okay if she goes out there and dies. It's like, I mean, it has to be her choice, because if it's her choice, then we know she's here because she wants to be, and that she doesn't have any ulterior motives and stuff like that. So, because it turns out, like, Huck brings up the reason why she latched onto Hope so much is like, yeah, because her mom was like, yeah, she reminds me of you at that age. And it's like, is that why you guys connected? She's like, she was lost and angry, and I gave her someone to look up to and have someone believe in her. And then she looks back at her mom and goes, yeah, I know that feeling, I know that feeling better than anyone. And her mom's kind of got this sad look on her face upon hearing it, because it's like, oh, in a sense of like hearing that just kind of makes you go like, oh, like you could, like, we haven't dived into it too much about their relationship, but it seems super complicated. Just like her feelings for it, because I guess like her, whether it's just everything that's going down the past 10 years, whether it's stuff before then too, it's just like, I'm sure the issues in their relationship have only gotten more complicated, because like her mom is in a position where it's like, right, I don't tell you everything that's going on. Maybe it's just like her mom was never the very open person, and maybe that's why Huck is kind of the way she is too. She even asked, because the conversation comes up about how the CRM has Silas and they're trying to interrogate him, but he's stonewalling them. So the question is like, how much do they know about like him and the others? How much do they really know? And Huck doesn't answer. And we find out later on, she straight up says like, oh yeah, I lied to my mom. Like, Felix and Iris, if you want to protect all of them, none of them can like come forth about what they know, because we already know, because they tackle this in Fear the Walking Dead as well, like with Al's side of things, of like, you can't let no one's supposed to know about the Republic and what they're up to and their very existence, because if you do, it's gonna. I'm curious where this is time frame wise, because the last time we left things with Fear the Walking Dead, Al had helped save God, I'm forgetting all who got picked up in the helicopter at the end, but it's like, we know Al is at CRM and because like I said, all this is going to be like happening like roughly around the same time, because like Fear the Walking Dead starts in, was it 2 weeks or something like that from now, maybe? I don't remember. But obviously it's a little later this month, so it's like, because once again the time frame's a little off too, because it's 12 years. I think it's like present day. It's been about 12 years since like the fall, as they say, and it's only 10 years here. So like I think this show is like 2 years behind The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. So maybe when we catch up to like Fear the Walking Dead or whatever, with that it's gonna be 2 years, like that's what I'm thinking, because I'm only going by the 12-year mark, because Negan, everything with Negan was like, oh yeah, like this is 12 years ago, and everything with his wife was like a little bit before like the fall, but it wasn't too much before the fall, essentially. So it's like, I think we are at the 12-year mark, so I think it is saying that is implying that this show is at least 2 years behind continuity wise. I think, I could be mistaken. So it presents a lot of interesting stuff, like I said, when we eventually do like tie into like the CRM stuff in Fear the Walking Dead. I wonder if it ends up being the case that there probably won't be much crossover early on between what's going on here versus what's going on there in Fear the Walking Dead. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I could be completely wrong, but that was my understanding of like the time frame and stuff like that. Because the CRM is something we like. Because in the grand scheme of things, like why they did what they do. Because my initial thought, like I think I brought it up last season. At least the implications, it seemed like it was almost like all supplies, like we have to like kill other people so that we can make sure that the CRM gets like all those supplies. It'll be wasted on those people. It needs to come back to the CRM so that it can grow, because it's going to be the epicenter of everything that they've got planned, as well as the future of rebuilding society. So it's like our community has to be like the only one, because it's the one preparing for the future in a way. Like it, that's what it seemed like to me. Like it's almost like all those other supplies and foods and stuff like that would be a waste. So the more communities out there, the more of an issue, because like the resources are limited. So we need all those limited resources here because we have gathered so many people, and this is going to be the epicenter of the future. That was kind of my understanding last season. But like I said, we know nothing about the CRM. We've tackled it the smallest bit in The Walking Dead, because like the last time we've even touched on that was like, after like episode 5 of season 9 was like the last time they touched on that. Well, I guess technically Michonne's last episode was at episode 13, kind of touches on that a little bit, because she's trying to track down Rick, and obviously we know he's mixed up in all of this as well. So that's kind of the last little tidbit we've kind of gotten in that direction. And then obviously, like I said, we got Al's story being the big crux of it in Fear the Walking Dead. And obviously this show in itself being a bit crux of it just on its own, like its entirety is tied to the CRM. But I went on a huge tangent, I do apologize. But focusing on Hope's situation, which kind of is bad, like going off on your own, not having someone to watch your six. She ended up getting knocked down the stairs by a walker and ended up hitting her head on a wall. So now it's like, oh, she's bleeding and she's kind of hallucinating because she has a concussion. So she's slipping in between like kind of a daydream and reality, and she keeps seeing something, but you're like, is that actually someone, or is that just something in her head? Eventually, like, because she's reading all these messages on the walls and stuff, and it's like someone dipping into madness, the bottoms of them just saying feed, 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 feed. And so ultimately she ends up encountering the woman she's been seeing her picture, Candace. And so the woman's kind of like crazy, being like, oh, I'm not Candace, you're Candace. And like all her own insecurities about herself, like she's projecting them onto Hope, because she's like, no, you're Candace, like you could have done something, but you didn't. I guess it's a situation of like, maybe at the time she was scared and she got so consumed with that fear that she didn't help people when they needed it, because it seems like she's the only one in this place. And so for her it's like, yeah, this is home, there's no getting away, you're gonna die, Candace, is what she was saying. And so Lady's obviously out of her mind just because she's been there the entire time. And then Hope's like, I don't want to kill you, but ends up accidentally not accident, but like slices her leg, and she ends up falling in, and those walkers at the gate end up grabbing her and biting her, and she's like, no, like, you fed, it's about feeding. I guess both in a literal sense and a metaphorical sense. I think she's meant to be saying like, yeah, like in a literal sense of like, you gotta feed to survive, because all this world is killing, and the moment you die, someone else is gonna take your clothes and your supplies, and it's just kind of like the next person is being fed, and then that next person is gonna be fed. And it's like, now that I'm gone, you fed, and this is your place. But also, like, I think you can almost look at it in a metaphorical sense as well, as like, right, it's the whole thing about like, kind of like the whole thing about the wolves inside of you, or dogs. Which one it is exactly always changes, because sometimes it's about sometimes they say like the wolves inside of you. I've heard other things just say the dogs inside of you. I know it's a little interchangeable, but I just think that's so, the metaphor always gets a little shifted anytime like a show or something I'm watching references. But like, the different sides of yourself, the good parts of yourself and the bad side of yourselves, at the end of the day, it comes down to which wolf you feed type of situation. That whole metaphor or analogy or whatever, I guess maybe idiom might be the more appropriate word. Regardless, I think on a metaphorical sense, maybe it can fall in that lane as well. But then we get to the confusing part where I'm like, so was that Candace not real either? Because when Hope looks back up, there's not even a body there. It doesn't look like there was any blood or anything. So I'm like, and that was all in her head. I guess she was like projecting It's so interesting. Like, she was projecting a Candace who was projecting Candace onto her. So I guess it's like her mind was trying to like project like her own insecurities and worries back to herself, And so she ultimately ends up calling Elizabeth and it's like, right, come pick me up. There has to be more than this. I don't know if this is the answer you want, but that's the answer I found about, working towards the future. And so it's enough for Elizabeth. So it's like, right, let's go back. They do tackle it, touch it a tiny bit, because I think it was Huck that was like, right, I have an idea about the whole Silas thing. Now, what that was, we don't know. But she does talk to Hope later on. It's like, right, you can hate me all you want, but you're not going to want to tell your dad or Iris or Felix. Like, I let them know about a settlement nearby that they'll be safe and be protected. But if you want everything to work out for everyone, like, no one, my mom included, can't know about, like, because the fact is I've lied to her now about what you guys know. You can't let her know that you guys know more than, that they know more than they're supposed to. Because if they do, because it's like, well, if they do, what happens? She's like, well, we've killed people for less. And it's like, yeah, so we get in that complicated territory of like, because for Hope, it's like, what's to stop me from blowing up your life the way you blew up mine, But for her, it's like I said, like, you won't just be, because in Hope's mind, it's like, you're just covering your own ass, which is kind of true, but like, Huck does care about you guys, so she does want you to survive. That's why she's covering for you. That's why she's lying, because at the end of the day, she's not the cold-hearted person she first was. Like, yeah, she believes in this mission, but even her thoughts on it seems like she's still out about it. It doesn't seem like her thoughts are wavering, but it is the thing of like the coldness around her heart has thawed a little bit, Because for the Republic, it's like, right, we do a lot of the evil so that there could still be good out there. Like, eventually, maybe we'll get to the point where what we do isn't necessary, that the world is in a good enough place that it's not needed. But for now, we got to do the nasty, ugly business. We got to do a lot of the bad just so that this world can survive and good can be born from it. So it's like we're a necessary evil type of situation. Like I said, in the grand schemes, what does that mean? Like, what they have planned exactly? Maybe I think this show will be the show to give us the best look into the CRM. Like I said, because every other show is just so like tangentially we've gotten a peeked into it, but this is like I think this show is going to be the big show to like showcase that, especially since this is a limited series. Like, this is like, not only the second season, but it's also the final season. So I actually don't know how many episodes it is, so I got to look into it, because I know season 1 was 10, so I don't know if this season's going to be a little longer. Is it the same amount? I'll look into it and later and include it in the comments. But at the very least, at the end, you see Hope reuniting with their dad, which that's going to be a little complicated because there's a new lady in his life, and it's like that new lady in his life is manipulating him, and rather, I wonder, did she bring up any of his concern? I can't remember. I want to say she might have talked to somebody about Leo's, like, worries about being lied to and stuff. It's like, they can't do anything to him necessarily because he is not expendable, but like, Hope being here will keep him in line. That's kind of also another purpose too. Plus, for her to potentially take over his work eventually, because they think if he ever proves to be too much of an issue, like, they'll probably make it seem like an accident or something, and then like Hope will be like, oh, I gotta finish my dad's work. Maybe that's what they're thinking, but once again, they're missing the piece to the puzzle, because it's not just Hope alone. Iris is a big part of that too, but like, the thing is, their father only saw Hope for being the one, not realizing like Iris lent the hand. So like, I think he kind of he loves both his daughters, but I think he underestimates Iris a little bit. Or maybe on some level he does know it's the two of them together, and he specifically only like brought up a Hope in those conversations because he's not trying to like give away everything. I feel like he's a little bit more like under their influence and kind of being fooled by their lies. I don't think he's kind of seeing through the matrix. It's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think he's seeing everything. I think his eyes are opening a little bit, but I don't think it's like, oh, he knows, like, oh, I can't let them have Iris and Hope. It's like, no, like, because I don't think he knew that they were getting Hope in the first place. But the fact is that they have. implies a lot. But like I said, just use her as a motivator for him, but also to have someone back up if anything is if they're ever in a situation where they need to get rid of Leo. But like I said, I think that new significant of his is going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing when they meet. She's still around, right? God, I'm blanking on a lot. Some of the smaller details in season 1. I mean, but it's not just that. There's other characters we need to catch up with too. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.